Hello everyone and welcome back to the second part of my discussion with Billy Shallow. Today we continue to talk about Smart Security Vision 2040 program. For me the word vision is something very strong and it instantly makes me curious on the message and the pillars of this vision, and to some extent you already mentioned it at the very beginning of our conversation, but could you please elaborate on what is it about?
Sure. So Smart Security is an ACI-led program that has a number of very innovative airports. So the likes of Amsterdam Schiphol, Toronto Pearson, Melbourne Airport, Singapore Changi, Doha Hamad, and London Heathrow make up the airports. But we also work with a number of innovative governments or security regulators. So CATSA, who do all of the screening in Canada, the TSA in the US, the UK Department for Transport and the CAA, along with AVSEC New Zealand and the Dutch regulator for counterterrorism. We work closely with airlines as well, so there's 4 airlines in the group. We're really trying to change the way that airport security is viewed. So at the moment, it's a one-size-fits-all treatment. So at the moment, each passenger is essentially treated as a threat. So they have to undergo the security screening process, which can be quite intense. It can be sometimes quite physical with pat downs and X-ray of baggage or CT of baggage. It's very much a stop-start process. And there has been initiatives to help improve that. And certainly it's come a long way over the last 5 years with the implementation of automated security lanes, parallel loading, body scanners, for example. But Vision 2040 is really trying to accelerate both regulatory change and innovation within aviation. So ultimately, the goal of Vision 2040 is to have a very much a seamless journey from curbside to getting on the plane without being stopped. Essentially walk through security, where security is across the whole airport. It doesn't just consider a checkpoint. So at the moment, about 80 to 90% of an airport's security budget is spent on the checkpoint operations. And this is really to protect both the aircraft and the departure lounge. But we've seen landside attacks, and as terrorists get more specific with their threats, there is really much a need to protect the whole airport infrastructure. And that's very much starting from the landside area all the way to protecting the whole perimeter from the potential of drones, for example. So Vision 2040 is an amalgamation of different security measures that really combine to maximize security whilst providing a seamless experience and very much a walkthrough experience in the passenger journey.
I really like this definition of smart because, to be fair, my initial association, and I think it's mainly driven by having smartphones and smart homes and smart houses and smart devices all around us nowadays. So this immediate association, it goes to technology side of things, but you also mentioned regulation and the processes and safety and passenger experience. So it's a really thorough approach. And it also shows us the drivers behind this vision and what led to developing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are certain disruptors in different industries, and the Smart Security Vision 2040 is really trying to be that disruptive program to create something that's very, very new. So you have the likes of Uber that disrupted the taxi industry. You had the likes of Airbnb that disrupted the hotel industry by really coming up with some quite innovative concepts. And that's what Smart Security's Vision 2040 is trying to do. Sometimes in aviation, especially with something so serious as security, regulation can take quite a long time to change, essentially, or to update. For example, reviewing the prohibited items list is a lengthy process. And often in aviation security, regulations are often bolted on as a reaction to something that's happened, like an incident or a new threat. And it's often sometimes reactions to these events, which focus on improving the security, but which is obviously the most important thing of aviation security and facilitating travel. It doesn't sometimes necessarily feel like the customer is getting the best experience possible through the airport by bolting on all of these additional measures. So Vision 2040 really looks at trying to turn security checkpoints on its side at the moment and come up with new innovative concepts using the best technology, the best processes, and really learning from other industries as to how we can facilitate more efficient and effective security measures in aviation.
It sounds really promising and exciting. So thank you for sharing that. And again, going back to the name, because 2040 in the program name by itself is pretty indicative. But what are the expected timelines for the vision to be adopted and implemented worldwide? I mean, like, do you have defined any specific stages before 2040 and what we can expect in this regard?
So the vision actually consists of about 8 key components. So those 8 key components, I'll list them off there. So data-driven operations. So this is kind of all of the intelligence that's behind the scenes to make decisions on perhaps risk-based security. So that we see quite commonly in airports, and passengers wouldn't necessarily understand that that's happening behind the scenes. Some of the other components include off-airport baggage screening. So we're looking to see consolidated centres perhaps in the future that screen airport baggage for a whole number of different airports, say for example in the London area, and we see that being a common theme that's going to develop. Airports spend huge amounts of capital on their hold baggage screening systems, so there's got to be some efficiencies in that moving forward. We're looking at standoff detection, and we see early trials of that, not necessarily in the checkpoint at the moment, but standoff detection is being trialled by a number of airports in mainly in the landside area, as this is a significant vulnerability of airports. And that would involve seamless screening as passengers walk through. We're also seeing CCTV and behaviour analytics being trialled by a couple of airports. So just like your behavioural detection officer would try and spot a person with ill intent, we see technology evolving that way that would flag up this behaviour without really compromising on passenger data. It will just simply recognise those that are acting in a suspicious way by, for example, circling around the terminal 4 or 5 times without actually going anywhere, so doing some hostile reconnaissance. So we're seeing trials of this nature develop in the future. One of the other components is biometrics. We all know that this is being rolled out by a number of airports to really help with identity management and also to facilitate seamless travel. Some of the other components include automated detection of weapons, and this is in place, and a number of trials are underway. Schiphol's a big advocate of automated detection for the likes of explosives, guns, knives, or any other prohibited item. This technology is not going to be available necessarily in the next 1 or 2 years, but it certainly will be before Vision 2040. And we are starting to see trials of walking through detection, but these trials aren't regulated at the moment, so they are just additional measures that the airport is putting forward to try out this new technology without currently interfering with the standard security process. So a number of these components are quite mature and certainly are in the trial or concept phase. Whereas a number of them haven't really been implemented yet. But we think 2040 is a realistic vision. The way technology is evolving at a rapid pace, we still see that 2040 is realistic, and we hope that the regulation can keep up with the pace at which technology is moving along.
In some way, you already answered my next question.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask how are technological trends factored in this vision as well. and whether there is something else that you already know that future holds for security checkpoint operations, and we are still to find out, because a walk through security, if you ask me, is a big promise, and it will be really exciting to see that materialize. And I'm pretty sure that all the passengers will be looking forward to it just as well.
It is a big promise, but I think it's one that's realistic. So we've seen the evolution of technology away from metal detectors to security scanners. We know a number of manufacturers are looking at walk-through body scanners. Now, this is available, we say, within the next 5 years, and wouldn't necessarily be the full walk-through experience, but the way that technology is developing, we don't think it's impossible to combine passenger walking with their bag through a screening tunnel, which will have a magnitude of different algorithms and technology to pick up different prohibited items, for example. And we still see a need for security staff and human interaction. If there is to be an issue where someone's flagged up, we still need security and humans to do the alarm resolution, to perhaps interview passengers, to physically check that what the technology has picked up is actually true. And so it's still a combination of different security measures all combining to create this seamless experience.
Thank you. And also, what naturally comes to my mind with regard to any future shapes and forms of airport operations is that we at ABEA, we can help to provide modeling, to perform simulations and scenario testing, which is obviously a very efficient way of considering different scenarios and what-if situations with regard to any sort of change in parameters or technology or the process itself, or regulation for that matter. And how will ACI support the implementation of this vision?
ACI ultimately has a World Business Partner program, which is essentially suppliers to the aviation industry, whether it's consultancies, whether it's technology providers, or whether it's security providers in the form of staffing. And we regularly keep these World Business Partners and the general industry informed of where we see the future. And Vision 2040 is designed to really help shape the future, so suppliers can utilize this information and research that ACI has created and really start their development to ensure that it best meets the needs of the industry. We regularly have smart security meetings and events, so we certainly meet as a management group twice a year. We have a World Security Standing Committee, which has a number of airports, and the senior figures from airports meet regularly to talk about industry collaboration. And smart security's real aim is to drive innovation in passenger and baggage screening. So we conduct a number of research events where we've had a number of aviation players. So we've even invited technology companies that are outside of aviation to come up with new ideas and disrupt the market. So ACI leads a number of programs that's really designed to support both its airports and its World Business Partners by giving it the latest advice on where to focus the development of new ideas.
Thank you, Billy. And finally, given the significance and how important in the passenger journey the security checkpoint is, you touched on a lot of important but also curious points. So I would like to ask, for the benefit of my own, but also our listeners, for any recommendations on where the Vision 2040 document can be found or accessed. Is it already public or is it still to be released?
So we are releasing it in Q2 this year, so most likely is the end of June. ACI will be doing a large-scale awareness program, so it will be supported by a press release and an e-campaign, and essentially it will be a link on the website, and it will be downloadable for anyone that has an interest in the vision.
And thank you very much for joining us today, Billy. Before I let you go, however, could you let us all know, from your perspective, the key takeaways from this episode of the podcast?
So I think key takeaways include the need to come up with sensible suggestions, certainly for COVID-19, that is really based on medical evidence, and industry collaboration will be key. So we really need governments and regulators to work internationally and in harmony, so that measures that certain states would put forward would be the same in other states as well. And that will really enhance the public confidence to pre-COVID-19 levels. And we're really looking for regulatory change to be accelerated. So looking into the future, governments should consider expedited revision of existing or implementation of new regulation to really support processes that help reduce passenger touch points. So the likes of biometrics, home printed bag tags, this is really key in trying to prevent touch points that aren't necessary in a world that is full of up and coming technology. And this is really what Vision 2040 is all about. It's about making a journey that everyone has to go through. Everyone has to go through a security process, but making it as seamless as possible and reducing as many touch points as possible to protect the travelling public, as well as making the whole journey more efficient whilst maintaining the levels of security that is of the most paramount importance.
Thank you very much for this summary and for joining us today. I will be looking forward to hearing more from you in the coming weeks and months. And also, yes, because you've got a big promise to deliver on.
Yeah, absolutely. Better start now.
Thank you all for listening. We will be back next week.